Good morning. Good morning. Hope you all are having a beautiful morning. Good morning, good morning. It's a beautiful day. You are watching Daily Devotions with Red Moon Eagle, and my name is Red Moon Eagle. I go by Red. We are in the tide of destruction. We are going from the winter solstice to the spring equinox. We just passed Imbolc. And Imbolc is an amazing time of the year where winter is ending and spring is arriving. And we are enjoying this beautiful weather, hopefully, of lots of snow, which prepares our earth for moisture that we so desperately need, especially up here in the high desert of Montana. I'd love it if you subscribe, hit the little bell icon. You'll get notifications when I'm planning to go live. I also post on the community tab. I try pretty regularly. I forget about it, but when I remember, I post there. Excuse me. I need to drink more of my tea. So we're going to start off with cards today. And in the Sacred Self-Care deck, the card that got pulled for today is number 12, Connect with Fire. The mantra for today, my inner fire burns bright, I shine my light through the universe. Fire is the perfect tool for setting intentions around letting go, as well as for sending your prayers and manifestations into the world via its smoke. The journal entry for today is, what old patterns and beliefs would you like to transmute with the alchemical magic of fire? I'd like to say also that fire is the core element of Earth herself. Her first life's blood was silica, liquid silica. It's a very controversial statement, but we'll move on from there. Animal Spirit Guidebook. We picked cobra. Cobra is also in the Animal Spirit Guidebook an animal of fire. Pausing, waiting, the inner teacher. Cobra represents a teacher or spiritual guardian. The cobra hovers and watches, ever present, ever protecting, ever loving. The essence of cobra is found deep within us in the form of the inner teacher and manifests externally in those spiritual guides who led us along our path. What would it feel like to be a student again? What are you ready to learn? Remember the old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When in balance, student of life, humble and wise. When out of balance, know-it-all and egocentric. To bring into balance, taking a class and study. Powerful animal today. We'll come back to cobra. And then in the Mystical Shaman Oracle, we have number 14, the curse. The essence of the curse refers to the limiting stories of our ancestors and the karma from former lifetimes that preordains the events of our lives. It is the source of negative patterns, and it can show up as a disease, a destructive force, or a blockage in our creative energy. The curse holds us hostage to a false story that we confuse for reality. Recognize the original wound that is playing out in your life so that you can heal it. The invitation is that it's time to recognize the source of our limitations. Honor the players and their stories. Forgive everyone and everything. Craft a new life course for yourself. Did your grandparents live at the mindset of scarcity? Did you inherit the genes for heart disease? Were you a slave or a master in a past life? This karmic legacy is ready to be seen, untangled, and released. The medicine of this card, be aware of your actions. Act with impeccable intention so as not to create a debt or a karma. Sooner or later, someone has to pay. What you do to others, you also do to yourself and to the people you love the most. Now you have an opportunity to clean it up. Powerful card. Okay, so when I saw these this morning, I thought, whoa, this is an intense trifecta. So hopefully it won't be as long as yesterday's daily devotional, but we're going to dive into this. So when looking at fire, fire is one of those elements that in reality kind of encompasses all of the elements. You have to have a certain amount of moisture. You have to have a certain amount of fuel for the fire, elements that can be burnt, and you need air. And fire creates this amazing heat and change. Fire on the surface needs to constantly consume to stay alive, right? But there's an energy to fire. There is a depth to how fire works. And in the mantra, I've dropped my book and it's way under the table, so I'm not going to go get it. Anyway, so the journal prompt on what are the things that you can let go of, what intentions do you need to release, and the mantra about fire is something you'll have to go back and listen to. But one of the things that comes to mind for me with fire is that this is Earth herself. This is her primary element. And when I look at fire, one of the most favorite exercises I ever give is the meditation where you light a candle and you gaze into the flame and you allow things to bubble up that need to be released. Mind thoughts, emotions, and connecting into that change energy. Now, cobra is amazing. Pausing, waiting, the inner teacher. Now, I guess for some people, cobra is maybe a scary animal, right? A scary totem, a scary energy. I'm actually going to stop using that word totem, so I'm going to practice today. Stop saying that. Okay. The cobra represents a teacher or spiritual guardian. This is the teacher in your blueprint. This is the lessons you wrote into your blueprint. This is also the opportunity for contracts with other people, other entities inside meat suits to teach you. This is manifesting from your inner wisdom, from that blueprint, from who you are as a multidimensional, quantumly connected entity, and the contracts you have with people around you to teach you through the experiences you're having. And it's allowing the lesson to settle. So there's fire energy, right? But it's also knowing that you can have a pause point even within the flame. And anybody who's done a lot of fire elemental work knows that, yes, fire is very changing. It needs fuel to move. But there is a place within the fire that is calm. It's a calm activity. It's a movement with tranquility that is challenging to achieve if you have not done a lot of fire elemental work. I like how it says, when in balance, a student of life, humble and wise. When out of balance, know-it-all and egocentric. One of the biggest things about fire is recognizing that fire can burn. Fire can consume. Fire can get too much fuel and go really, really fast. And it can smolder. And it can set at a low heat and burn slowly. You give it as little oxygen as possible, it will still smolder. It will still be alive in its coal. And so the essence of cobra is found within the inner teacher, the inner quantumly connected entity that you are, recognizing those around you that teach you constantly. Right, Astra? I'm so proud of her. She brought me 2 balls this morning without me having to go like fetch them myself. It was amazing. Anyway, so cobra energy. We're constantly learning. We're constantly having new lessons, new opportunities, new things to change and grow from. And the people that we're around teach us constantly, and we learn ourselves. Now this is the card that creates the uh-oh with the trifecta this morning, and that is curses. Now, I think it's interesting that this particular artist and set of people call it curses, because I just did an instructional video that I might just release it. I don't know. I think I might put it on my platform and have it like a mini tutorial type thing, like a mini class, because I get a lot of questions about, have I been cursed? Do I have somebody after me? What did I do to deserve this? My house is haunted. Somebody's sticking pins in a voodoo doll. Layers and layers and layers of this fear paradigm of the limiting stories of our ancestors and the karma of our past lives. I love how they write that, because so many entities on this earth are in what I call the karmic loop. And it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your vibration is, it doesn't matter what your blueprint is, you can acquire karma. You can be right along in your path and acquire some karma. But it's really important that, I love how they said here that the medicine of this is to act with impeccable intention, so not to create a debt or karma, because sooner or later somebody has to pay. What you do to others, you do to yourself and to the people you love most. Now is the opportunity you have to clean it up. We all have the ability. It doesn't matter how deep and thick into the karma you are. You have the ability to unwind. I like how they use that word. I've been using that word for quite some time now, many years. And if you know, I actually only got this right at solstice to start the new wheel. So I'm finding lots of validation in this timeline right now for things that I've been saying for years and not being heard. So it's awesome. Oh yes, karmic release. So when looking at karma, it's really easy to get stuck in that fear whirlpool where, well, this happened to me in my past life, so I must have to suffer through it. I did this and this and this in my past life, and I keep making the same mistakes, so I guess that's what I have to do. That's not actually what's happening. Every single time you run across that whirlpool edge, right? Like you feel like you've swirled again, or you've come back to the same example, or you've come back to the same situation. You can choose to not participate in that swirl by doing one big thing. Forgive yourself. Forgive and release and honor the people you love. Acknowledge they are in their own swirly bits. You don't have to be caught in that. That's a choice. And choice to wake up, a choice to be aware, a choice to participate, and be the person in the room that says, I love you all. I acknowledge that you are where you are. You're using the inner wisdom without ego, okay? Because you got to let the ego go. And you have to go, why am I in this room with these 5 people? What is my lesson? What am I here to learn from you? And how can I let go of the potential karma that could be happening in this very moment? And using that fire energy, using this amazing element of fire to create the movement to release yourself out of the whirlpool. So if you think about I use whirlpool, I use that visualization a lot because it's that swirl, right? That funnel swirl where you swirl down. I can even do it with my head. I was just noticing that in the camera. I love the joy of this. So you're swirling, right? And that's a water thing, right? Water is the element of emotion. It's the element of connection. It's life. Water is life. Yes, Elizabeth, yes. And when people think of the whirlpool of karma, it's often linked to emotion, greed, fear, anxiety, worry, whatever the emotions are, hurt, pain, whatever that is, right? So the whirlpool is a good visualization for being caught in a karmic whirlpool because you're going around and around and around and around and around, okay? Well, fire is energy. It's this amazing heat. And what happens when you have more fire, more heat than you have water? You have steam, right? It rises up and it releases out. And that, I think, is a really good visualization of how to release out of that karmic whirlpool, where you add some fire, add some heat to that whirlpool, add some energy and acknowledgement and love and connection. And this is where the element of earth comes into play, where you have the earthly body, you have the physical earth meat suit manifestation, and it's got a lot of electricity in it, and you've given it a lot of water, and you've given it good food, and you've rested, and you're healthy, and you've got good breath, you've done all the things that are in the pillars of self-care. And when you have all of these and you trust them, you add that fire, and you get that movement going, and you're able to conscientiously love and release and forgive through that inner wisdom of acknowledging that we are all in our own path. And that person right there that might be triggering all these things, they have to go through their own stuff. And you have to be in a place where you can love and forgive to get out, to step out of that whirlpool, to be released in the steam, right? In and away from the whirlpool and rise with the energy of this fire. And then you're in that situation, right? You're releasing anything that could possibly happen in that moment, and you're allowing yourself to be wherever you are emotionally. There's a reason I call my business Elemental Healing. I think maybe over time, those of you that watched a long time understand why. Everything relates to the elements. Because it's important in our meat suit experience here within Earth's consciousness, her ecosystem, her realm, on her planet, of who she is. She herself has consciousness, and she is full of fire, and we need to honor that. So today's daily devotion, I think, is pretty deep, and it's pretty impactful. And one of the things that at the very beginning of the curses is curses hold us hostage to a false story that we confuse for reality. If you walk around your life thinking that someone has cursed you, thrown negative energy at you, etc., 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 you're going to spend a lot of time swirling around in a whirlpool of karma. And you don't have to. You don't have to do it that way. You can forgive and release anything that has negatively attached to you or that you're borrowing from someone else. When you live in a fear paradigm, it drives the ego. It drives the negative side of cobra. It drives this fear-based paradigm of the ego getting involved in explaining it, rationalizing it, making it okay, holding on to it. And it's smothering the fire. It's taking a whole bunch of all the elements and just throwing it over the fire and smothering it. We need fire. We need fire active in our lives. We We need fire energy moving through our lives to create movement and paradigm shifts and opportunities for us to unwind this generational curse, quote unquote, of what people think karma is. There's a lot of stuff that has happened to our ancestors. I say this all the time, my parents, grandparents, yes, no. So my parents, not grandparents, my parents, both of my parents' parents, or my mom's grandmother, but my father's father, they, and grandparents, I guess, they all lived during the Great Depression. I forget that it wasn't very long ago. I keep thinking it's farther away, and it's actually not very long ago. But the Great Depression in the United States, and they lived during that time in the Midwest, so in Nebraska and South Dakota. And during that time period, they had what, if you don't know anything about this time of history, they had the Great Dust Bowl. And basically, there was a huge climactic shift change that the buffalo had not been grazing anymore. The deep, deep grasses of the plains had been tilled up, and massive amounts of land had been tilled up for crops. And there was a huge climactic shift that happened that created where there wasn't enough rain, there was a lot of dust, and famine. A lot of people starved. I mean, there were whole families that starved. And my father's side of the family lived in the Midwest, and they held on to their farms, but there were a lot of people that didn't hold on to their farms. They couldn't. They mass exodused out of the Midwest to go further west to find food, to find work, to feed their families. And it was during a time that there weren't a lot of jobs. We had had the great stock market crash where the economy collapsed. My mother's side of the family lived in the South, and the South was going through its own tribulations that had been going through since the Civil War. And they were poor, white, sharecropper descendants. And there's a lot of trauma around not having food, not having things, not being able to live a life that had security. And so both sides of the family, in one way or the other, struggle with scarcity trauma. And scarcity trauma is a thing. And it has influenced my family very deeply. So for me, it's very important that I'm conscientiously aware that I carry the DNA trauma of that scarcity mindset. So I have to be very intentional. And releasing the curse of that generational scarcity trauma is an ongoing thing that I work on, because my physical body has the DNA structure download from that generational trauma. Because remember, science has gone back and said that I believe we're up to 14 generations. They can see 14 generations back where DNA was influenced and can manifest in the meat suit that you're living in today. Whatever happened to that great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother can and does still influence your physical body. So it's really, really important that you pay attention to releasing, finding that inner wisdom. Who are you as a spiritual entity that's quantumly connected? And can you walk into circumstances that are triggery, that have a fear paradigm? And can you conscientiously, with love and intention, truly let go and love yourself? Love your body, love the body that you're in. It's tricky. Our bodies are fleshy things, and if you are aware that you're a quantumly connected spiritual entity, the physical body can seem really kind of in the way, right? Like it doesn't do what it should do. or it's messy, or you don't like it, or it doesn't look like your true form, or whatever it is that's going on, that's okay. Because you can still forgive, love, acknowledge the fire, the electrical energy through you, that you are a walking, talking hydroelectric plant, and you can release the curses. You can release the trauma and the karma, and you can work on these things. But do it with this inner wisdom. Do it with this stillness of peace that still has movement. Because remember, cobra is a fire. So cobra is still moving, even though the card talks about inner peace. Are you coming up to join us today, Astra? Hi. Yes. I guess she wants to say goodbye. I hope you all have a beautiful day, my friends. And yesterday's daily devotional, yes. Oh, gonna say hi. She's always trying to figure out whose energy she's picking up on, because she can't see what's going on. She can't see the people, but she knows there's somebody there. So have a beautiful day, my friends, and I will see you in prayer. And go back and look at yesterday's. Yesterday's was pretty impactful too. I think the cards this week are going to be quite validating and energetic. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you in prayer. Right, Astra? We're going to see him in prayer tomorrow, huh? Blessed be, my friends.